Welcome to Model Horse Tack School. My name is Carrie, and today we're going to continue with the series on gaited horses. I'm going to go with probably the most important piece, and that's the saddle. Now, this saddle has many names. It's known as the park saddle, the show saddle, and the cutback saddle. There's probably other names for it as well. And if you see, it's got really wide flaps. It doesn't really have a lot of padding or high rise in the back here. It pretty much is a nice flat saddle. It doesn't even have D's in the front because you never use a martingale with this. Okay, here is an example of this tacked up. Very important for you to understand. See, there's your withers. This sits behind the withers. And it does have a little cutout right in here, and that's to give lots of movement to this knee action. First, notice how far back the girth is. Notice how far back your rider is sitting. I mean, we're talking about way back, right? Arabians, national show horse, non-gaited, Morgans, Hackneys, any other high-stepping breed that is not gaited. If you look at the rules for their breed, they're supposed to wear a cutback or park saddle. And the name of the classes that they have for English pleasure usually says something like park pleasure. Now, all of this information is in my book, Cutback Saddle with Tree. It's available as a digital download on my website. I even bought the rules, the rule book, for several of the breeds so I could abbreviate what's allowed, what's not allowed, such as, you know, no sparkles or glitter in the brow band. That's actually not allowed. And then it restricts what kind of footwear. I mean, they can do beads that kind of help them swing their legs out, but they're actually very strict about what's allowed because I guess in the past there were some not very nice people who did some not very nice things to their animals to get them to really fling their hooves up. Okay, in the back of the book there's the pattern. We got, and I say lambskin, calf, or tooling leather. Basically, you want a 2-3 ounce leather. And then, of course, this is skiver. Now, I don't really use the tree straps, and the skiver is not strong enough for the stirrup bar. And I use the same stirrup bar that I use in my English saddle, which is to use a straight pin. And I'll show you that. That's not in the book, how to use the straight pin. But you could always do the stirrup bar, just use leather lace instead. Tree straps, what I really do is I just go ahead and keep this area, so of the, instead of scrap, I keep that, and then I can cover my tree straps, tree if I want, with those. And I'll show you that. Okay, this is what we call the options page. You've got two different kinds of girths. You got the full leather one, and then you can do this one here has elastic. So this is your web girth, this is a leather girth. There's also two different ways to do your ends, and I'll show you both of those ways. This here is to help you make the double bridle. You can refer to my double bridle video for that. I also have a different video on how to do the crown and noseband pieces. And then I also have a video on how to make the quarter boots. So quarter boots are allowed. They're one of the few pieces of footwear actually allowed by almost all the breeds. And it's basically just because of overreach, so that the back hoof doesn't strike the back of the front hoof. And that's what they're for. I've got a video for that. And then you have aluminum can, which I always use for my trees. And then here I say craft foam or an 1/8 inch material. So I'm going to use a suede for this. I have this, I thought it was going to be a pretty suede. It's a nasty suede, so I just use it now for filler on my saddles. This is all of our pieces. I like to sort them by 3 different, actually 4. You've got your tree, so all your tree pieces, I go ahead and put those like there. And then the skirts or flaps pieces, I put those in there. It's a pile. And then the piping, I can put that in a pile, I guess. And then this is, we'll do elastic on that later. And then these are the pieces that I kind of kept in case I want to cover the tree. I might not have to, because it's covered pretty good by the flaps. Now, if you'll notice, this is a really damaged piece. It's not going to show. It's going to be glued up. So it's okay if you want to use a damaged piece on this or flawed piece at all. So there's really not that much to this. So let's go ahead and get started with the flaps. And these things are actually pretty good. I think this is one of my simplest patterns. It's one of my older ones too, but it's really pretty simple. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and put, I know we don't have a lot of padding back here, right? Because we saw that in the picture. So we just need a little something to give it definition. And then, pretty simple. Go up here. Just fit that. Fits. Right. And then I'll go ahead and cut or fit the center piece. Now I go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and cut this extra here. I don't need it, so I'm going to trim that out. Go ahead and glue down this part. Other than that, I'll just get that side. Don't really have a lot to say. It's pretty self-explanatory. The pieces fit pretty much together, so this is not a lot to talk about. All right, now we're going to flip it over. We're going to do this side. We'll do the inside part first. Go ahead and trim this. That's such a tiny piece to trim, but all right. And then we're just going to, this can be a little bit tricky, so go ahead and put my glue on, because we want to get around this without a lot of wrinkles. Get my flat. Okay. So I want to go ahead and pull it. And it usually makes a wrinkle there. And then I'll pull it again. And I'll try and keep it just, you know, collect it like that. And then I'm going to pull it again. See if I can get one more good wrinkle there. See how there's 3 of those? And then I'm going to go ahead and squeeze them and pull them tight. Squeeze and pull. And there's usually always 3 of these. And then that's what it looks like. So we're going to go ahead and let that dry. You might want to get rid of this. You have to be careful. that you don't end up exposing the suede underneath. So I'm going to go ahead and trim that. I'll go ahead and trim that now. We'll see what I can do with it. I think it's safe to wait. I think it's safer to wait, so that you make sure you get that little corner without. But we'll show you. Okay. So we'll pull it, and then pull it again, and then pull it a third time. I'm going to get my flat toothless. I'm going to squeeze and pull. Hey, where'd that one come from? Yeah, I still have to trim there. Okay, and now we're going to go ahead and, I should probably wait until that dries. Yeah, let's go ahead and wait till that dries. And then I'll trim those off the tree. So this one's probably the most complicated piece. We're going to shape it by bending it right along this line. So now we're going to find something to roll this up. Not too much. It's a very shallow seat. We want to make sure we got a roll there. And then I also want to kind of round in here. So I have kind of like that profile. So it's not very high back here. It's very flat, and there's your cut back area. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and glue that right in that dotted line area. That's pretty good. So I'm going to let that sit for a little bit before I work with it. And while it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and trim these pieces. Trim those down. So I want this as flat as possible. So I can trim these away. Those little pinch plates I made. Then I'm going to use my smoothing tool. This is actually a real leather tool. You can get it at Tandy. And it does help really to flatten. And go ahead and I've already edge coated everything else. Okay, we'll talk about faux stitch lines very briefly, and that's the fake stitch lines. it's kind of hard to see them in a camera. So photo show quality actually doesn't need this. Live, sometimes the judges like to see stitch lines. You put stitch lines any place where on a real saddle this would be sewn. And so it would be sewn onto this piece of leather. That is a good place for stitches. All right. Nothing on this is sewn that will be seen. I mean, you've got things that'll be sewn like the piping, but the piping hides the stitches. Okay, let's finish the tree. So this one, these arms are too long, and it was designed for you to just kind of tuck them up like this. And as always on my trees, the paper is not necessary, but I just leave it. Okay. So I'm going to put glue here. And this is your front. So I'm going to put it kind of matching the shape. So see how that changes right there on both sides. Go ahead, pull this down. I always like to make sure I have a towel with me. Yeah, this Skyver's got a lot of texture to it. Okay, and while that's happening, we're gonna do, I call it a tree. So I'm gonna come, not entirely all the way, but leaving myself a little there. And then from up here, we're gonna go towards that round mound, not quite there. And then we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing here, not quite to the edge. And now we're gonna fold everything in. And I'm gonna start with these center pieces here. Lay down, lay down. Okay. And then we're gonna lay down these other pieces. You want to make sure that they're behind where that cutback is, because you don't really want to see the edge. And then make sure they're glued to themselves over here. While those are drying, we're gonna clip right there. See that? Right where it starts to go out. And then I'm also going to clip right here just a little bit, and I'm going to fold in those two tabs I created. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and trim right in there. Just a triangle. Not really even trying to match the roundness of the tree, just getting rid of the excess. Okay, now you can cut these. So like, can go to there and then cut if you want. Let me show you like this. So I could kind of like fold that in and see how it's not gonna keep round. So go ahead and cut like that, and then I can get that nice and tight, right? So I'm not showing anything. And then I can go ahead and glue that down on top of it, like that. And that way I can get it nice and tight around the seat edge here. And then the other way to do it is just to make one of those darts like we made on the back of the flaps. Just go ahead and do that. So I have to come back and cut that. And I usually wait till it dries a little bit. All right. Now the last place is back here. And this is definitely going to need some folds. So I already have a lot back here. So you can always trim. That's what I'm going to do here. Just trim a little. I don't have to do this all the time. The problem is it's where you put it on the, where you put the tree on the tree cover is going to determine, you know, if you have to do anything like what I just did. All right, so now we're going to have to make a few, like one right there, one right there, and then I really need a third one in the middle to pull up a lot of that slack, right? So now I've got 3. Trying to get as much as I can in that middle, and then I'm gonna squeeze and push, squeeze and push, squeeze and push. Now I'm gonna go ahead and cut this stuff off, which is not good for my scissors. All that glue. While I'm at it, I'll go ahead and trim that off. And just because I really need to be as symmetric as possible, I'm gonna go ahead and trim that off. I have to clean my scissors. It's a lot of glue. Okay. So while I'm allowing that to dry, because I really do need that to dry up a lot better, at least set, I'm going to deal with my piping. So the piping is just going to be a fold over because I need it to be as narrow as possible. So I'm just going to put glue. And then fold it over. And in some of these saddles I needed that coverage of having a much thicker roll in the front. But this saddle I don't really need that. So what I do though is I take these I never knew how useful these pliers were until I started making tack. So pretty much I'm going to just squeeze and then kind of give myself a little bit of a bubble there. And any place that didn't fit, I just squeeze, squeeze. So then I have kind of a rounded edge, but it's not real thick, and it's still kind of flat. All right, so this is the other piece. This is for the front of the saddle. I mean, it doesn't matter. One's for the back, one's for the front. All right, there you go. So this little piece is just to help the piping in the back, to place it right. So, I mean, technically, in fact, what we probably should do is find back center, right? Just kind of a little bit back center. And then we'll go ahead and put this down back center. In order to make that turn, I'm going to need to take a little bit out. Right? So this way it'll make that turn. And if anything, I might even take a little more out. So you don't want to go all the way to the end. Just want to take a little bit out, and that way it can make that turn without having a huge bubble there, right? So there we go. And then this side, we're going to do the same thing. Does that take a little bit of dexterity? A little bit. Not a lot. I've just made hundreds of these, so I think I make it look easy. But this really is a pretty easy saddle pattern. Alright, there you go. Now let's get back to my seat. So see how I'm trimming these off? I don't need all that bulk, so I'm getting rid of the bulk. And then I want to smooth it. Everything to lay nice and flat to the very best of its ability. And if we have to, get the sides, get the very back. Alright, right there. So now we're going to put the jockeys on, and they should tuck right in there. Now I did skive, so they're going to sit a lot flatter than if you don't skive. Just hint, hint. So you really want to match the curve all the way. Don't do that. Don't set that down. And you are welcome to clip or clamp if you need to. I try to remove excess glue whenever I can.